Hello, I'm Amoeba, and this is going to be my any percent speedrun of Rayman for the Game Boy Color. Basically owned this game 20 years ago as a very small child. I hadn't really played it in those 20 years until I got a random feeling that I wanted to play it again the other day. So I decided I'd give a go at running it, and in that week's time, since I started learning the run last Friday, I found a full level skip, an interesting glitch, and a good few improvements, and I've taken the record down, as you're about to see, by about 3 minutes. Now, a week is not the longest time to be running a game. I definitely could do a lot better if I spent a lot more time on this, but I'm very happy with where it's come already. I kind of wanted to do a commentary on a run I'd finished and was quite happy with, and this came along, so here we are. So I'm going to be comparing this run. Well, I'm going to have PB splits. I'm also going to be comparing against 32:37, and that was the record by Spera747 a week ago when I started running this game. There was a record in between there and my times. That's held by the Extra, or Thextra, I'm not actually sure how to pronounce it. He got a 32:05, that was after the discovery of 4-2 skip, which I will explain when I get there. Here we go. So we start off with the first level. There's an early cycle we really want to hit here, but we have to jump as soon as possible off of that vine and off of this platform to have a chance of actually grabbing this platform to get that first cycle. So this game has a weird few mechanics, but the weirdest one is ledge grabs. So the game will really just throw ledge grabs all over the place. Unless you've definitely cleared the ledge and landed on the platform in front of it, you'll grab most ledges most of the time. But you can also perform an action immediately after grabbing a ledge. So if you're frame perfect, you can jump as soon as you've grabbed anything, like I am demonstrating on those vines right there, and that ledge. Which is obviously ideal for us. I'm going to hang back a little bit here to try and jump over this guy. I didn't get it. I don't know what those enemies are supposed to be, but they definitely look like old biddies in raincoats. And I specifically hit that platform on the backswing so that it would move backwards to us first and we wouldn't have to wait for it to swing back to us for as long. First two stages are very quick, then we go into the first of 3 auto-scrollers, which is very long. You can see me bobbling along to the music. Not a ton to talk about in this level. I will try and pick up these collectible bits, I don't really know what they're called, when they're off screen where possible. That's because this game is actually surprisingly graphically intensive for a Game Boy Color game. And things like the animations that play when you collect those bits can cause lag. They don't always, depending on how much is on screen, but a few of these will. You'll also see me jumping about like an idiot for a little bit. I will actually be able to show you why in a little bit when I actually hit the trick I'm trying to do. We're going to kill this enemy as quickly as possible. Again, the death animation can cause lag. Also worth noting that those blue enemies suck, because when they die, they do a little floaty animation upwards. Their hurt box still exists the entire time. Watch one of these jumps right at the end. That one. That one was slightly higher than all of the others. That's called a super jump. Discovered by a tasser in the Rayman community called No More Lasagna, which is a great name. That was discovered a couple of days ago. And it's done by, when you land from a jump, you have to press jump again for a single frame exactly on the frame that you land, and that makes you jump 5 pixels higher. No real speedrun use found for that yet, but very interesting. Interesting property of auto-scrollers: when you touch the last platform in the level, like I just did there, the auto-scroller stops. You can actually touch that platform before it's actually scrolled high enough for you to jump on it, soft locking you out of that level. That start skip there is probably one of the most fun skips in the run. There's a skip there as well. We don't go around the top, we just jump off as early as possible and just catch this platform here. These platforms are apparently plums, and I say apparently because I didn't know that until I started running this game, and the people in the Rayman Discord told me. I always thought they had faces on them, and that was just my imagination as a child. And in my defense, there are some platforms in this game that have faces. We want to specifically get hit by this spike on the way back. That allows us to jump through that last fish. And carefully timed punches gets rid of these enemies And obviously I have to be very careful with the blue ones. I don't want to jump into them while they're dying because the hurt box still exists. Invisible trigger there activates this platform. We don't have to go as far as the collectible bit. And we jump over the old biddy in the raincoat. That's the end of World 1. World 2 is full. It's just got tricks all over the place. Clips and momentum. We get a lot of momentum over these slippy platforms that we really want to keep where possible. It is actually possible if you land on a non-slippy... typically if you land on a non-slippy platform, it kills all of that momentum. If you were to jump on the very first frame that you land, you can actually maintain your momentum. There's a clip here. I'm just going to segue out of what I was just talking about. We hang off that ledge and look to the left, we clip through those spikes, and that skips about half the level. Yeah, if we land on a non-slippy platform and jump on the very first frame, we'll maintain all of the momentum we have. That's useful in the beginning of the next stage, although I won't have an opportunity to do it in this particular run because I'll only have 1 health. Another skip there where we jump through the spikes with a damage boost. These trombone guys are weird. They make the noise well before you get pushed by them. Then once we get to the top here, we're going to skip up to a higher platform, which is intended in the game for you to break open the cages that are up here, but we're going to get all the way up to the top of the slope, turn around, and that will allow us to just have enough height to reach this end platform. Speaking of the cages, there are none required for this run, which I believe, or have been told, is unique for a Rayman run. Normally you have to free your friends on the cages, but not in this game. So this bit that I'm jumping over now with the clouds and these platforms is the bit where we can maintain all of our momentum potentially with frame perfect jumps, but obviously frame perfect is very difficult. Nice jump right at the end of that platform, skips that entire section, we don't have to go underneath. These spikes above us don't actually have any hurt boxes below them, so you can just bonk your head into them as much as you want. Safety heart up here, not actually safety, I was at 1 health, I actually really need it for a damage boost coming up. Again, want to kill those enemies as early as possible to avoid walking into them as they die. And when I get to the end level platforms like this, I actually want to be holding a direction when I go into them. There are some occasions where I'll land on those platforms, and if you land, Rayman will do an animation of him landing, as if he's like recovering from the landing. And it will sit through that entire animation before it takes you to the end of the level. However, if you're moving, it will cancel that animation and then take you immediately to the end of level animation. So we do want to be holding directions when we finish a level where possible. These music note hitboxes are dumb. We'll kind of phase through the edges of a few sets of them in this level. For instance, this one I think you're supposed to weave around them. If you just stand pretty much in the middle, you just go through them all. And we'll fall off and hug the wall here just to get a bit more speed off of that slope. That takes us to the end of World 2. That's probably the worst split I do in this run. Either that one or World 4. World 4 doesn't go great. Anyway, now we have the helicopter power. Not really a ton much to say about this. It doesn't open up any new interesting tech. It actually ruins the super jump that I mentioned earlier. You can't do it once you have this power. Don't really know why yet. I want to avoid that bonus stage. If you go in it, you have to either beat it or time out. Basically, end of your run if you hit it. Platforms that move side to side like this one move exactly the same speed that Rayman runs, so there's no real advantage in jumping off of them, apart from pretty much right at the end. We wait to cycle here, just to make sure we don't get hit by that guy, because if you're hanging off the ledge above, he will still hit you, which is really dumb. There's an early cycle here, there's a bit of a skip off of this first platform, and then an early cycle if I'm good enough. I want to get up on that ledge as quickly as possible and just avoid getting hit by those spikes. Good job, me. And then there's not much more to talk about in this level. Or just basic platforming. The next level coming up is going to be an auto-scroller. So it's, again, not much to talk about in that one either. I will, at the start, go for the heart right at the beginning, which looks a bit overly cautious when I've only taken 1 hit of damage. The reason for that is if I jump underneath this first platform, it activates the water rising, and it's faster to go under there and jump underneath than it is to actually get onto the platform. Might as well grab the heart while you're there. There's a few blue enemies in this level that we want to kill as quickly as possible just to avoid lag, because them being on screen just slows the game down a lot. This game's very, very laggy. A very pretty game for a Game Boy Color game, but it does come at a cost. So we're going to be going into World 4 after this stage. World 4-2 is where we have the big skip. It would be the longest level in the run, and it was back in the previous record days of a week ago. But we actually skip the entirety of that level and save about 1:45 with a new glitch. And it's going to abuse a property of moving platforms, specifically a platform that when we stand on it starts to move upwards. We're going to land on the very edge of it, and that's going to push us off of the platform. So we'll be stood on the ground next to it. But it's also going to give us the properties as if we were actually stood on the platform in the first place. So if the platform's moving upwards, it's going to try and push Rayman upwards, and if the platform's moving downwards, it's going to push Rayman downwards. We're going to abuse the fact that it's trying to push Rayman upwards. We're going to grab a ledge, move the cloud off screen so that the upwards effect is continuously applied, because whatever effect you have when the cloud moves off screen is maintained, and moving the cloud off screen unloads it. And then when we grab the ledge, it's basically going to up-warp us throughout the entire stage. So that's the level coming up after this one. This level's pretty standard. We're going to try and land on that cloud as early as possible, just so that we gain enough distance to run across and jump over to that next one. A nice after ledge jump, I don't really know what to call them, but when you walk off of a ledge, you have 9 frames after you walk off that you can still jump from. And in that case, it's actually faster to jump rather than get the helicopter power if you can. Only about a little bit, but little optimizations are nice. I really don't like these bouncy clouds. It's surprising how early you can get the high jump from them. We're going to go as far right here as possible. That will give us as much speed coming off of these slippy platforms that we can skip that entire section. And again, holding left as we land there so that we don't get the falling animation. And here's 4-2 with a big ascension skip. I actually fail it the first time, unfortunately, and fall into the spikes and die. But it's fine. It's a difficult skip. We have to hang off that left ledge, and then we have to jump for exactly 2 frames towards the right, and that will create this effect. Then when we grab the ledge, that will apply the up-warp. Because we're grabbing the ledge, it doesn't detect physics of the walls that we're walking through. If we did actually jump out of that while we were in a wall, it would just up-warp us to the nearest floor above us. That skips 1:45 of the level, which is very nice. And then we go into the first helicopter level. These levels are lag heavy. There are a lot of sprites on screen, a lot of spikes around. In general, where possible, we want to fall without the helicopter power going. So you'll see me punch occasionally to activate a faster fall. You'll also see me try and turn around where possible before taking damage. That's because knockback is always applied in the opposite direction that you're facing. I didn't do it there, that was not a great example, but I'll do it here in a second. We're going to turn around here and get knocked backwards, like that. If you're really, really good at timing, you can just sneak through that gap. It is quite difficult. I want you to pay attention here. There's going to be a spiky ball that spawns behind us. Look how much this lags. I don't know why this one spiky ball causes so much lag, but it just slows the game down to a crawl. And this stage is pretty much more of the same. I'm going to try and jump as low as possible off of this last platform so that we hit this guy early enough. We don't have to slow down. Don't need that cloud. When we climb up poles like this one, or vines or whatever, it's faster rather than just climbing up to jump and weave left and right. Just because climbing is very slow. Also, you may notice if I ever need to punch anything, I'm generally punching in the air. That's because not only when you punch on the ground you get stuck in the punch animation, but punching on the ground normally is a very short range. If you jump and punch in the air, you have one of the longest ranges of any punches, apart from like the fully charged ground one. Well, that takes 2 seconds to charge up or something silly. So jump punches are generally the most useful ones. You can see the effect that skip has compared to the previous record. You go over 1:40 ahead. We want to get this plumb platform onto this guy's head as quickly as possible because it starts him running faster. You can actually push that plum all the way up. You can kill this guy and push the plum all the way up the slope, and it will still work. But it's so much slower. No, it's actually not. It's potentially faster in the optimal, but it's so inconsistent. The way slopes work, because you're pushing it up a slope, it's very awkward. Skip the plum there and hover down this. Try and turn around to get a backwards knockback. I don't really know why I don't get it, I'll be honest. I seem to be invincible for a bit and then get knocked forwards anyway. Normally you'd grab onto that hook and float all the way down. We can take an intentional damage boost there, hang off that platform and jump across. We're going to skip the hook here. Pretty obvious how that works. And then there's a chunky skip here. We're going to activate this trumpet platform and get the highest possible jump off of it, which will just allow us to land on that platform. And then we punch and crouch, and that will angle the punch coming backwards down and hit the platform back. And we have to make sure we get as much height off of this final ring as possible, otherwise you don't quite make it to the platform. There's a bunch of little skips in this level. This is a very fun level. Skip that platform. In general, these ring enemy things that we swing off of, we want to try and hook into them where possible while falling. You gain a lot more speed coming out of them if you're falling when you hook it like that, than if you jump into it and hook. Just managed to catch that cycle of trumpets. I'm going to do a very slight hover here just so we don't catch the edge of that platform and we can skip all of this nonsense. I'm specifically trying to hover off the end of the platforms here to get under that guy. On the second one, unfortunately, I go slightly too early and get a very late ledge jump, but it doesn't really cost me any time. We would be able to damage boost across these spikes to the left rather than hitting this guy, but we want the health so that we can avoid picking up a heart later. It's not much slower just to take the trumpet guy. I get bodied by both of these trumpet guys here. The first one just ignores my punch, and the second one doesn't get me up high enough. We don't need to push this platform down because we can just jump from it at its peak and get across to the end platform. And then I get the music glitch. So if you mash fast enough through that last cutscene on this level, the music just doesn't start for a few seconds. I don't really know why, but it's kind of cool. I'm very glad I got it in this run. I'm going to wait here a little bit just for this guy to move, and because we have to wait for this platform anyway. Hover here to skip that platform, and we're going to try and snipe this guy as we jump past. It's a bit of a difficult snipe that, because you're moving downwards and he's moving upwards. Your timing needs to be pretty good. Music in this game is so good as well. I'm going to punch this guy before we grab the ledge so that we don't have to land and then punch again and sit through the entire animation. And this is the point where if we've got full health or near full, we can skip this heart to the left. And it just saves a bit of time. Saves a fair bit of waiting here, because normally the cycle is really bad if you have to go and pick up the heart. Specifically going to punch over this and pull it back to us, and then punch once more. If you try and punch it while it's going down the slope, the acceleration it would get from the slope is ignored in favour of the acceleration that your punch gives, and the acceleration that your punch gives is less, so you just don't want to keep punching it. You want to get it started, but then not do any more after that. Pretty clean ancient forest. And we go into Fiery Depths, which has two very technical stages into two very not technical stages. But the first two of this world are very fun. And kind of nerve-wracking as well. Potentially going to take a backwards knockback here so that we can ignore all of the platforms and the bats above because they suck. You have to wait a long time to avoid their cycles. Gonna jump onto this hook from the right. That means we can avoid having to swing twice, it's faster. Want to avoid getting hit by that bat, which I don't do. Pretty slow recovery as well. What a terrible run. Remind you, this is only a week. I only spent a week on this run. So it's definitely beatable, and I encourage as many people as possible to try, because it's a fun run. Again here we're going to try and catch the hooks on a fall, because it's a faster swing, and we want to delay getting onto this bat as much as possible, so that we don't have to boost up that rope at all. We're going to jump out as far to the left as possible here, that stops, basically despawns that spiky ball from spinning, and then a backwards knockback here to grab the ledge through the spikes. There's a lot going on in that section, all in a very short amount of time. I'm going to have a little wait on this platform just for this ball to get out of the way. That's probably my favourite stage in the run. Maybe. Just crawl under that bat. This is probably the stage that I changed strats the most compared to the old record. You're going to see me do this next section completely differently. I'm going to fall off this ledge rather than jump so that it positions us nicely under that ball. Then I'm going to boost up here and take these rings. It's actually slower to take this path over the lower path, but it despawns this bat that would normally be on this platform that you'd have to wait for it to get out of the way. That ends up being faster. We get a lot of lag in this level, just because of stuff on screen. You can crawl under these while the fire's coming up, as long as you're not sat completely on top of the spawners once it's there. If you're really quick with that ledge jump, you don't have to wait for either of those, which is lovely. I missed the platform there, that's nice. You can jump through these spikes if you just jump twice. The first one knocks you back to the platform and the second one pushes you through because of invincibility. Then we're going to want to, on the falling platform coming up after this bat, we're going to want to hug to the right as much as possible and try and hook the bat as we fall. Which thankfully I get. That means we don't have to wait for it to fall and then rise all the way back up. Which is a nice neat little time save. And this is where the game gets the laggiest the most. For whatever reason, this section is horrific. This wall doesn't exist. You can just walk through it with a damage boost. Saves you having to do a whole bunch of stuff above it. And you can damage boost through those spikes, but we actually really want the extra hit of health for later. Now we're on to the third and final auto-scroller of the run. We try and hook that guy as late as possible, because the lava starts, basically, the trigger is just before him. And if you start swinging on him, it can take a bit more time to get to that trigger. A lot of the hooks in this level are positioned awfully. They're really, really close to the platforms you're jumping off of, and if you hook them and swing back into the platform that you were stood on, it cancels your swing, and you basically just stand on the platform again. It isn't too bad, but normally you're holding to the right to swing to the right, or at least I do. And so I end up just catching the whatever floor I'm stood on and then walking off. And it makes you look a bit silly. So these sloped platforms here, if I were to walk all the way up them and not stop, and actually reach the ceiling as it's scrolling upwards, the ceiling would push me through the platform, I'd fall through it and hit the lava and die. Ceilings in auto-scrollers are really weird in this game. There's a similar thing you can do in the first level. You can ride a lot of the platforms that move upwards, and if they push you upwards into the ceiling pushes you through the platform. You'll notice I'm a lot more serious in this auto-scroller, no messing about. Normally I'm actually on a run at this point. And then we have the second and final helicopter level of the run. This one is pretty scary. Very easy to make one small mistake and it all to kind of spiral out of control. The death plane at the bottom of this column is really high up. I get very, very close there. I probably played that a bit too close for comfort, but luckily avoided it. But it's surprising at how high it is, how easy it is to hit that. You're going to see, well, not as much as I'd like, but there is a lot of manipulation you can do here with punching to get faster falling. You can punch through all of these sections to fall a bit faster. I was on a good run though, so I played it pretty safe, I'll be honest. Well, there's an example of it. You punch and the fall is faster. A lot of lag here because of all the sprites on screen, which is a theme throughout this entire world. Backwards damage boost through those spikes, and another punch to fall faster. Damage boost didn't matter because there's 3 hearts here. And there's a lot of lag coming up because we've got circles of spikes to go through. Again, want to damage boost through both of them because it's just easier. And much faster than waiting for a convenient cycle. Backwards damage boost there, just to make it a bit faster. That's the end of Fiery Peaks. Fiery Depths, sorry. Then Arcane Forest is another pretty technical world. It's really punishing. A mistake here is typically just a death, and that's the end of your run. Slight wait here just for the cycle of these guys to line up nicely. Gonna jump right in the middle of the 2 paths here so that we land on this platform rather than the ground below it, slightly faster. Again, want to walk on that platform a little bit so that it moves us and we get to that final platform quickly. There's a lot of this stage is played right up by the ceiling, so jumping over enemies can be a bit of a nightmare. There's one coming up right at the end of this stage which is awful. Basically at ceiling height, you have no jump height. You could damage boost through it or kill it. They're both about the same, but damage boosting through is far more consistent. Very easy to just miss trying to kill that guy, and then you waste a lot more time. And the damage boost doesn't really matter because we're going to pick up hearts in a little bit. Although speaking of the hearts that we're about to pick up in this level, once we get these, they are the last health drop that we get in this run. So whatever health we have after that is what health we have to beat Mr. Dark's first cycle on. That's actually a slight lie, to be fair. We get health drops during the Mr. Dark boss fight. But we have to beat the first cycle before we get one. So we have 5 hearts now. We have an intentional damage boost at the end of this level. So maximum we can have going into Mr. Dark is 4. And there's a really fun skip here. Probably the most entertaining skip for me to do. We want to jump pretty low off of here, hover most of the way, and then we have to pull back a little bit. Because if we actually maintained our speed throughout that entire skip and hooked onto that final hook, we'd be on the left hand side of it and it would swing us towards the right, which we can't get to the final platform for, so we have to slow down towards the end of it. We had our final damage boost there. That leaves us on hopefully our final health. All of these spikes around us are instant death. This section is not that hard, but it's kind of scary because one mess up and we go all the way back. And then there's another awfully placed enemy right at the end of this stage. I do try and kill it, miss it, but it doesn't matter because we can just jump over it. But where it spawns and where it is really annoying. Then we have the Dark Rayman level. Not particularly a difficult level, but the camera is kind of weird because I think they move it to keep Mr. Dark on screen. You do have to get used to that a little bit. These jumps are probably the worst bit. If you miss the edge at the end, Dark Rayman hits you every time. Jump out to the left here to hit the invisible trigger for the cloud. It means we don't have to get off the pole, but we still get it. And there is a skip coming up at the end of this level that I found a couple of days ago. So this will be new tech, I believe, even for existing Rayman GBC runners. I actually miss it at the first possible opportunity you can do it, but we'll get it on the second. So if you grab one of these pillars, I miss it there, but we get the second one. And then you just hold down, you fall through that platform, saves you having to double back a little bit. If you get it on the first one, it saves about 5 seconds. 10's probably a bit generous. And then I freak out here, because I know that jump's not going to make it, and I really, really don't want to get hit by him. If he hits you, it's just instant death, and you go right back to the start of the level. But we survive. Then this level's gimmick is that your left and right inputs are swapped, so I'm holding left the entire time here. There's an intentional low jump there to avoid spawning a platform and 3 little collectibles that would cause lag. This level isn't particularly difficult, it's really only the gimmick of left and right that makes it any kind of challenge. It's really easy to get used to that gimmick, so... This is probably the hardest section, is hitting that guy and remembering which direction to jump onto him for. And this is the end of this level, so we're going into the Mr. Dark fight next, and this is where good times are made or broken.
Good job.
How is that a best split? I've already done this run. So, the attacking sections he has 3 sections. He throws small fireballs, then big fireballs, then lightning blasts. They're all a set pattern. They're all a set amount of time. Then he turns into a ball form thing. It's very Metroid-esque. And comes at you from a random spawn location and does random movements. That is super duper RNG reliant, and this run got the best RNG I've had in any run. That's actually pretty good. This is a very good spawn. I like that one. This was really good too. So that first set of 3 was really, really nice. If he's nasty enough and spawns in an awful location or moves around enough, you can actually just completely miss him for a solid 20 seconds, and then he respawns at the top and redoes his attack pattern again. So if you miss a full cycle, it's basically run over. It costs so much time. I think I get another good set of cycles here. Sometimes a bit difficult to figure out where he is, but that's a good spawn every time. That was a really nice reaction by me. And this is a decent spawn, you do have to wait a little bit for. And then we have the lightning round. And for whatever reason, when the people who made this game decided to make this game, they thought, this attack's really good, let's make him do it 16 times. So you just have to sit here for 30 seconds and jump. And it really, really sucks if the RNG in the bowl form after this is really bad, because you've just sat through all this for nothing. I've had 2 or 3 sub 30 pace runs die here. In fact, I've had much better runs get here. You can see from my best split time going into Mr. Dark, this is 17 seconds slower than what I've had. I just didn't get good luck. Well, there's good luck and you also have good reactions. You can react to the bad luck and still hit him if you're good enough. Didn't quite get the early one there, but that was good enough. This one's kind of bad, but we managed to hit him in the end. And then time is on the final hit. That was an early split for sure, because my final time was definitely a 29:41. So you can ignore what my splits currently say, but I did my best. And that is Rayman GBC. This is a really fun, short game to run. It's a little sad that I'm basically the 5th person ever to run this game. I really hope more people pick it up. I'm hoping that more people in the Rayman community give this game a look. It's very, very good. It's pretty good. There's probably better Rayman games, but it holds a special place in my heart. I would like to thank the Rayman Discord, Speedrunning Discord, for supporting me, for being happy when I came in with the 4-2 skip that I found, and really enjoying the new tech that I demonstrated. Specifically the Extra, I'm not sure how to pronounce that still. He actually discovered the more consistent setup for 4-2. So I figured the glitch itself out, but he figured out the grab the ledge and hold right and jump setup. So big shout out to him for that one. That makes that glitch so much nicer to hit. And yeah, I'm hoping we get some more runners. Look at that 3D model. Hoping we get some more runners. If you're interested in running this, give me a shout, or give anybody in the Rayman Discord a shout. It is a fun run, and I'm hoping more people pick it up. But yeah, if you liked this commentary, feel free to give me a follow on Twitter or Twitch. My username is AmoebaUK on both. And I will have links to raw footage of this run, links to the Rayman Discord, and other relevant things in the description below. But thank you everybody for watching. We're going to let the credits play out, and then we will be done.